Welcome to Down to Dunk. I'm your host, Andrew Schlecht. We're part of the Athletic Podcast Network. With me sometimes on a Sunday morning is my good friend, Michele Berra. Michele, what is up?
Well, I'm back in my usual location, which is sort of usual. We had every problem possible over the past half an hour, but we are here and we will record a podcast. So it's good to be back on a semi-normal schedule.
Yes. So yesterday, the Thunder officially signed Isaiah Hartenstein, and there was a little press conference for him that I thought was really interesting. It was really good.
So,
What is that?
okay, this is the last thing that will happen in this podcast. I'm sure this was an alarm. Which was written like record a podcast with Andrew, which I am doing, so that's fine.
So they had the Isaiah Hartenstein press conference yesterday where we got to talk to Sam Presti and to Isaiah. And I think like big questions that kind of people wanted to know is about like Isaiah's role and what he was gonna, is he gonna start, and I don't think those questions were necessarily answered explicitly, but I do think that they kind of were, in that Sam said, like, we don't promise roles to players, we promise environment. I thought that was really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Isaiah was very excited to be a part of the Thunder. He even said 0-0. He said that we're 0-0 yesterday, and
Yeah.
I just couldn't believe it. It's like, okay, like he's officially part of the Thunder now. But I thought it was really good. I thought that Sam was really forthright with how he felt about Isaiah and what he was going to bring to this team. He talked a lot about, and I thought this was particularly interesting, that he's a young player that still needs development himself.
Yeah.
And that they intend to kind of help him, sharpen his tools. And Isaiah talked about his excitement for that as well. My guess still is that he'll come off the bench and that he'll play some with Chet. He'll play some on his own at the center position. But overall, I thought Isaiah was really great. I thought Sam had a lot of good things to say, and he's going to fit in so well with this team and on and off the court. I think there's a lot of reason for excitement, especially with the idea that I think he might shoot threes. He even said as much yesterday. So that to me is pretty exciting. Not only are you getting this really good player, but he could potentially get a lot better throughout his time in OKC.
Yeah, this is a very interesting wrinkle. I mean, if you look at the past and the numbers, those are not numbers that you necessarily trust to be anything real in the future, because it was on and off. It was a bit early in his career, then he went away from that, mainly because I think the Knicks play a completely different brand of basketball and they don't want him to be roaming outside of the paint.
Yeah.
And so nobody knows. But the fact that he wants that, the fact that he feels like this is a part of his game, that he wants to be back, that he's excited that it will be back in his gameplay. This is very interesting, and this is what can allow Hart to start. Because if he's a guy who takes 2, 3, 4 threes per game, a la Horford, then there is really nothing that it's against starting him. We have seen the Boston Celtics rolling with the starting unit with Porzingis, without Porzingis, with just Porzingis as a center. So this is not very dissimilar to what Hartenstein can do for the Thunder. And if this works, I mean, he can be even more than a guy off the bench. Because if you feel like, hey, I'm paying my fifth starter $28 million per year, that's that's not bad for a contender. That is what you expect to pay your fourth/fifth starter on a title team. If it's your backup center, then that's a bit rich to pay like 28 millions for a guy that plays maybe 20, 22 minutes. If you can integrate him in a starting unit and have maybe like different lineups where it can be your lone guy, but it starts with Chad and that unit, you're able to make it work. Maybe it won't work with Lou Dort. Maybe it will. Maybe it will work better with Caruso. I don't know. But if you have enough shooting where that lineup really works, then you have something because it's we know that Hart is here for 2 years at least, plus one. But the second part of his contract is important. Like you have year one to really find a role for him, year two to really take advantage, and then you have to make a decision basically
Hmm.
to either extend him or to just cut loose and or trading him somewhere else. So if you see Hartenstein as a, a pathway to have a starting unit that is tall, yes, but very effective, then you can really see Hartenstein grow into something more than a backup, which I think it's a gamble. And if it's just a backup, then you have a great backup for 2-3 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he talked about how, and Sam mentioned this too, that these are both really smart players that can figure out how to play together, and they kind of believe in that. But Hartenstein said that they're two of the top rim protectors on the court at the same time. That he views Chet as one of the most talented bigs in the NBA. So he said it could be very deadly, and he's
Yeah,
excited about that. He also said that he would have to do a little bit more of the dirty work so that Chet can chill a little bit. Um, so I thought that was good. And then Presti talked a lot about how these players, and this is something we talked about here on this show too, is that bringing in Caruso and Hartenstein, they're players that don't conflict with the development of Shea, Chet, and J Dub, and that they actually are going to help them in their
yeah,
development, which I think is huge. And something that I think that is like the real secret sauce of this trade is that not only are you adding good players, but you're adding players that can help your other players in their development and help them become better players, which I think can kind of like supercharge the development of this team, which is why I think you can feel confident and not only the players, but feel confident in this team, like potentially being the best team in the Western Conference, because I do think that these guys are going to help and not hinder just everything on the court for Shea and J Dub and Chet, which is like the most important thing they have moving forward is just how do we get these three to mesh, to improve, to just get better, period.
yeah.
And I think that adding Caruso and Hartenstein is just a really good step in the right direction for that.
Yeah, and it gives like a lot of flexibility, a lot of maybe Hartenstein would be better suited with J-Dub or with Shea, and you can really you clearly have a blueprint with Shea. You take Shea, you put Isaiah Joe, Cason Wallace, Alex Caruso, Chad Holmgren. That unit is just unbelievable. Just
Mhm.
that unit will roll like really roll, and then you have maybe a second unit that is a little bit more. Hey, uh let's not like just space. Let's move around, and then you put in Hartenstein that can really be your screener for J-Dub. You have Wiggins, who is an extremely good cutter. You have Lou Dort, who's a dog defensively, and you can play Caruso with that lineup. You can play Cason Wallace with that lineup, and you have like another very strong unit that plays maybe a little bit different. And if you start Hartenstein, then you have a natural way to say plug him off middle in the first quarter, and then bring him back with Dub leading the second unit. I mean, those sort of stuff. I think it's are the ones where we'll just enjoy
Yeah.
like discovering what works. But I agree that those are players. If you think about the fact that J-Dub was starting to hit Chet Holmgren with layups and with alley-oop dunks. I mean, Hartenstein is a very good screener,
Yeah.
and Dub was a point guard, like a pick and roll point guard in the in college. So I really see that pairing to work, especially if you had like guys that can move around, that can use maybe Hartenstein screen, even if not on the ball. Like those sort of things can maximize what J-Dub is. And the fit is cleaner because if you have like a guy like Caruso and one like Artenstein instead of Giddy, who needs the ball in certain areas, whereas those two guys can really be a complement and an enhancement of what J-Dub does. That that means that they can really make J-Dub a better player. And also having Shea and Chet maybe now can share the court a little bit more because you don't have the same drop off if you take off both from the other lineup. Then that lineup can really cook. And
Yeah.
Shea and Chet can really find their two-man game, enhancing Chet offensively. So I really think that this fits in theory in an extremely nice way. Then you need to go and do it for 82 games, and then do it for another 20 games or so, 25 in the postseason. But it's such an interesting off season for the Thunder so far.
Yeah. And another thing that he does that the Thunder just didn't have is he just offers an offensive rebounder that just didn't exist in OKC.
Yeah.
He had the 13th best offensive rebound percentage last season. And honestly, it's really you're gonna have to take away a ton of guys on this list, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's really like he's the 7th best in the NBA offensive rebound percentage because you take away guys that just played limited minutes. Do you know who had? So the Thunder didn't have a player in the top 50 in offensive rebound percentage. Didn't have one.
Mm-hmm.
You know who the best player was in offensive rebound percentage?
Josh Giddey.
It was not Josh Giddey.
Case and Wallace.
No.
Then I'm done.
Is Aaron Wiggins.
Oh, dang.
But it's like 6%, 6.1%.
Yeah.
He had the same offensive rebound percentage that Markelle Fultz did. So tells you a little bit about it. Like they just didn't have anybody that was playing that role or that was.
And they weren't aggressive, searching for them.
Yeah,
which is by design.
Yeah, without a doubt. I just think that he, and Presty mentioned this too, it just offers some diversity to the lineups.
Yeah.
And it allows them to play a little bit different way and gives them somebody that can come in and that can go get boards. He talked yesterday about how he was not a good offensive rebounder coming in to the league, and that's something that he had to improve at. And one of the ways that he improved was that he watched a YouTube video of Taj Gibson boxing out, which is just hilarious. And like the most like Tibbs has to just be drooling with this guy using Taj Gibson as his example of how to offensive rebound. But I just thought that was interesting. And I just think like he's somebody that clearly is going to add a lot to this team, but that's one aspect that is just completely different. You know, a lot of times it's like, okay, how does he fit with the Thunder? He's a good passer, thinks the game at a high level. Like those are things that Presti was mentioning yesterday. He was mentioning that there's a lot of guys who cut off ball, that he's going to be able to find those guys. Yes, that's exactly how he fits into the Thunder offense. But he also is just going to add some stuff as far as his size and his rebounding that the Thunder didn't have last year, that now they're going to have, and I think Chet's a good rebounder, but now they're going to have like a legitimately good rebounding center in the game the whole time. And so I do think like that is an important aspect where, and like you said, it was by design that they didn't get a lot of offensive rebounds, but now you can play it a little bit differently if you want to with Hartenstein, because it is like an actual strength of his. Whereas with the other guys on the roster, I don't necessarily think that there was a strength in offensive rebounding for the team, so it made sense not to try to go for them.
Yeah, I agree. And again, this is the Steven Adams thing with Donovan, who was a firm believer that transition defense could exist with offensive rebounds.
Yeah.
If you have a very good offensive rebounder that can really just be there and try to get those. And Steven Adams was that. So I really think that this is something that you can employ with Hartenstein. And the more you think about the possibilities defensively that Hartenstein gives, the fact that he can do the dirty work on like very physical guys, where Chad is a little bit more free to roam and to maybe double team to help. Like, can you imagine like having a premier rim protector that is defending I don't know, Jokic on low post, and then you add Chet that doubles him because his guy maybe he's Aaron Gordon and he's away from the 3-point line. I mean, those sort of stuff. Like you can really think about defenses that will play in a different way, and then you always have the opportunity to go, hey, let's go Chet at the center, which we know that worked to such a high level that, I mean, this will be part of what OKC does. And maybe this is how OKC closes many games. But if you can mix like 2-3 minutes of that killer lineup and then 2-3 minutes in the last 5 of Hartenstein, that gives Chet a breather in terms of, hey, you need to protect the paint, rebound, and have maybe Chet fresher for 2, 3, 4 possessions offensively. This is something that we did not discuss, I think, in a very comprehensive way in terms of the Dallas series. I mean, Chet was drained offensively because he had to do such a high level of work defensively that he had like basically zero energy on offense, and he was still very good. Not great, but very good. So can you imagine having Chet with fresher legs, maybe can take like 2-3 possessions on not on Clay Thompson, but maybe on someone else, just to ease up a little bit, and then having him fresher on offense because he doesn't have to be the guy who does it all defensively.
Yeah. The possibilities are certainly exciting. I mean, I think Chet could go guard Najee Marshall.
Oh yeah.
Like there are guys that he can guard out there,
or PJ,
or definitely PJ. Like that would have been a really good solution for them, honestly, because they couldn't really size up against the Mavs, and it makes sense. But now you can size up, you can play small, you can really play any way you want, which I think is the benefit of adding him. So
just thinking that you have, hey Luca, now you have Caruso, now you have Lou Dort. Oh, there is Jason Walls. Oh, you have also Jade up there. Like it's insane the number of perimeter defense that OKC can just throw at anybody.
Yeah,
like to have 2 guys for each of the best player on the opponent team. Like, well, round 1 is J-Dub and Lou Dort. Round 2 is Cason Wallace and Alex Caruso. Like, that's your thing for the entire series.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's insane.
It is crazy. It's so crazy. With the news of the signing yesterday, and they signed the rookies, AJ Mitchell, which we've been talking about on this show, is going to be a 2-way. They had to renounce the following players in order to, which means they just lose their free agency rights. It doesn't mean that none of them can come back, but like they don't have rights over these guys anymore. With Biyombo, Gordon Hayward, Keontae Johnson, Muscala, and Olivier Sarr. So all those guys are unrestricted free agents, which everybody but Keontae was going to be anyways. And so that's the interesting one, is like, do they bring Keontae back? I think they kept Flagler on that 2-way contract. He had like 2 years guaranteed anyways. Keontae, I believe Keontae did as well. But they ended up renouncing him so that they could fill in their 2-way contracts to bring in AJ Mitchell specifically. And now they do have one roster spot available. But But I don't know if I anticipate any of these guys coming back, to be honest. But I don't really know the answer to
Oh,
that.
they can still sign Mike to a minimum if nothing else works for them. It's clear that the Mike signing was more of a hey, let's come back, enjoy a playoff ride with us,
Yeah.
more so than anything else. And um, he doesn't make too much sense with how the roster is shaping. I'm not sure if they can keep that open coming into the season. I think so. They don't have to go 15 necessarily immediately. They can stay and like wait for maybe the last round of cuts before they sign someone like Isaiah Joe, like they did with Isaiah Joe 2 years ago. So I think that that could be a very viable strategy because you don't know what teams will do. You don't know who will become available late in the season. And so you can do that. You can keep a window open to do a 2-for-1 trade, maybe if you want in December when the first batch of players will be tradable. There are like many options. I mean, you don't have to rush into a roster spot that it's probably meaningless. I mean, you already have very, very big issue in terms of giving guys like Guzman Jang time on the court. And so it's not that it's really someone that you necessarily have to plug there. Um, and on the open market now, I don't see players that can really change the course of OKC, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, I also just don't know that. How are you going to give everybody minutes? How are you going to give developmental minutes to your rookies? How are you going to do the things that you want to do if you add like another veteran player? At this point,
Yeah.
And they may do it, but my guess is that you can go into the season with an open roster spot. There's nothing that says that they have to fill every single roster spot.
Yeah.
Or they could bring Keontae back on a 1-year vet minimum as well.
Yeah.
So if they want to keep him in the program, it wouldn't be very hard to do that. And then if you needed to cut him loose, it wouldn't really be harmful at all to your cap. So
Yeah.
there's
Yeah,
some
they
things
can do that. I
with it.
mean, I think that we will see in the coming years a lot of guys like Keontae getting just a short stint with the G League. This is what you get in order to show who you are. AJ Mitchell, another
Yeah,
guy that will probably have just that. Maybe 2 summer leagues, maybe,
yeah,
because the picks are going to come in. You have probably high level talents coming in, and you don't have many minutes, especially because OKC has a roster that for the next 3 years, it's kind of set, I think, assuming that Jada will be extended at the max, Chet will be extended at the max. And I mean, this roster can be stable for the next 3 years. So there's not a lot of wiggle room. Guys like Usman Jang have to produce now in order to be in the rotation because they know that Topic will be part of the rotation next year. So someone will need to be out, or Topic will be out as well. Like it's a huge crunch that OKC will go through. So just don't be surprised if a pick in the 50s like Keontae just has like a one blue season to prove himself, and then it's hey, sorry, thank you. There's no space here.
yep, yeah. It's going to be a lot more difficult to be a part of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Like you have to be legitimately good, or you just have to show so much potential in the background for them to hold on to you. And I don't think that Oos is like in danger of like not being on this team anytime soon, but like he does have to show some improvement. Like he's got to have a really good summer. And so,
Yeah.
yeah. Anything else that piques your interest about this team, Michele? And then I am going to attach the interviews with Hartenstein and Presti at the end of this
Hmm.
episode so that people can listen to that because I do think that it's valuable for people to take. Specifically, I think it's valuable to take in kind of what Presti has to say because he's way more revealing than people give him credit for, and I think that it's good for fans to be able to listen to that. And I prefer to have it in podcast form myself than on like a YouTube or whatever. So,
Yeah.
so listen to that, and then I thought we could answer a few Twitter questions here that I got from listeners yesterday. But anything else from yesterday or just free agency in general that piques your interest?
I think that speaking of Presti being revealing, the fact that we interpret the fact that he said during the exit interview that passing was how Dallas was effective and it was lacking for OKC. Said, "Oh, okay, this is Giddy Redux." No, it was not, but it still was something that they addressed quite pointedly in the
Yeah.
offseason with
Yep.
Hartenstein, with Topic, and with Dylan Jones,
Yep.
and with AJ Mitchell. Those are all guys that can really pass the ball. Even if maybe no one is as good as Giddy, the fact that you can keep passers on the court, because either they are very good, potentially very good offensively, or do it all, or rebounders, and also passers. So I really think that if we go back and listen to every Presti's conference over the past 4 years, we see really an evolution of his thoughts
Mm-hmm.
and then actions that are in line with what he's saying. So this is, I mean, it's extremely interesting that he analyzed the offseason, he points at stuff, and those stuff comes to fruition over the next 2 seasons in a very precise and programmatic way. Other stuff from free agency, I mean, I don't know what to think about DDR in Sacramento. I'm not sure I like it. I kind of like. I'm not even sure that I like what San Antonio is doing. Like, I don't really understand putting Chris Paul and on that roster because it's like, why do you want to accumulate wins in a draft where you can have like literally the worst record? I would actually sit Wemby for most of the season if I could, and just try to draft Cooper Flag and have my like front line of the next 10 years that will destroy the league, instead of trying to be semi competent. And it's not that Chris Paul gives you that necessarily, but it gives you a sort of competence that maybe brings you to 28 wins. Why do you want to get to 28 wins?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you there.
I mean, great for the Thunder, but
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, they really could go in the tank. Just and like a part of that would have been drafting a guy at 8 as well, and just bringing those 2 guys in, having
yeah,
them play, having an ill-fitting roster to some degree, and like still like you could get it if you paired another top 5 pick with Wemby, especially in this upcoming draft, it could be set.
yeah,
You know, essentially the Thunder were set trading for Shea, and then with the 22 draft, like that like
yeah,
and it was one draft, honestly, that set them. Or like the 21 draft seemed promising, but all they have left is Wiggins, who is a role player and a good role player. And then the 23 draft, getting Casey Wallace is great, but like what really set them was getting Chet, getting Chet, and then doing the right scouting and getting J Dub.
yeah.
You know, those are
And
the
who's
and Oos. I mean, don't count out the Oos man. That's what Michele's saying. I didn't say it. Michele's saying that. Yeah, DeRozan. I don't know. I don't know what to. Part of this seems a little bit like something that Presti was saying yesterday. Is like he called it the lowest common denominator. Like going and getting. Like he's like you can go get whoever on the market. That's just there, but it can solve some problems, but open up other problems for you that you didn't have before. And I just think DeRozan kind of does that for the Kings. Like
yeah,
I think that offensively, they did need somebody else that could go get a bucket at the end of a game. But I just don't know that that is exactly who I would want, because it's definitely there's not going to be a flow to get to him. It's going to be like, here is the ball, DeMar, like go deliver this for us kind of thing. So I don't I don't love the fit. He might make them a little bit better, but I think that the way that they've operated with their roster over the past couple years, I just think like they're destined for just like mediocrity, which is
Yeah,
fine. Like for a team that lost for 16 years and didn't make the playoffs, like just making the playoffs and being round one fodder is way better than what they did before. But it's a little bit disappointing, I guess, is what I would say with where they were 2 years ago. Whereas like they were really up and coming. They had a chance to really form this roster in a way that made a lot of sense. And they didn't really do that. And this
yeah,
certainly is not a move in the right direction, in my opinion. I think you need to add better defenders and more shooting
yeah.
around Fox and Sabonis. And with
Just feed Keegan more. Just play
yeah,
Monk. Like DDR he's a fine player.
he's a really
Where
good
is
player.
his? Yeah,
He's a Hall of Famer. He's a guy who scored a ton of points. He's a really, really good player. But if I were Philly, I would definitely want him. If I were the Lakers, I'd probably like him in LA a little bit more. Even if I were the Clippers, it's like
yeah.
if I could just get him instead of PG, it's not like a 1-for-1 comp, but he at least gives us, some scoring. But with the
At least it's
Kings,
not Kevin Porter Jr.
oh my god.
That's another thing that I don't know. I mean, I trust Tyloo to be
Oh
one of the best coaches in the league, but
no, it's amazing. It's
you
amazing
know,
for OKC. It is like if I could dream up a player to put on the Clippers roster to help the Thunder get a top 10 pick next year, he might be number one for me
where is
because
Pokuševski in that list?
he's not on the list. And here's why. Because Poku's not good enough to play for the Clippers. He's just not good enough to play.
Okay,
And I think that KPJ has enough talent to get on the court,
I see.
but will lose games.
Yeah,
He is a known loser. He is a tank commander. Look what he did in Houston. He only lost. He
yeah,
only lost. And so bringing him in, you look at his stats, like crazy stats. It's great. I think he's good enough to play, but is so bad that he is going to lose you games because he's just chaos and he's
yeah.
a possession eater. It's so good for OKC. It is so, so good for OKC. And I
Where's
hope.
Jordan Poole ranking on this list?
Oh man, it's hard to say. It's hard to say. Jordan Poole has had the weirdest career so far of almost any player because he was
Mm,
legitimately very good for them in the playoffs and helped them
yeah,
win the title.
yeah,
As of today, though, with the Wizards, he's definitely in the KPJ zone. Like he was terrible
yeah,
last year. He was
yeah,
awful and didn't and helped them lose a ton of games.
yeah,
And so I love the KPJ addition. I think he's bad for the locker room. I think he's bad for the culture. I think that he helps tank their season. It's wonderful because if the Thunder, this is where it gets scary, and this is where I was serious when I was saying, "Hey, like, here's your chance, NBA, to beat this team. Like, this is your chance. You better take it." Because if somehow this Thunder team, who is already thought to be the best team in the West with who
hmm
they are now, walk into next season with a healthy Topic and a top 10 pick, plus this roster that will improve because of their age, and you add two high upside rookies to the team that could potentially take spots on the roster and be good for you. Like, watch out, because that's the thing, is that the Thunder are going to have a chance to add players to this roster that are inexpensive. Like, they're going to have a chance to be one of the only teams that actually beats this CBA and that actually understands how to function within the CBA. And it was all because of the preparation and the groundwork that was done prior. And that what you need in order to thrive in this environment, this cap environment, is really good players at the top, which they have in Shea, Chet, and J-Dub. And then you need inexpensive guys at the bottom that are good.
Yeah.
And that's how you thrive, because no longer can you just pay out the nose for a good team. No one's doing it.
Yeah.
Steve Ballmer said, "I'm not going to do it," which tells you that that change is coming. But if the Thunder hit, they'll keep the three guys at the top. If they hit on Topic, if Topic hits, or if they get a top 10 pick next year and that player hits, the Thunder could be the best team in the NBA for a long time.
Yeah.
Because that player is going to be inexpensive. And it allows you're going to have to let some guys go, because that's this new NBA, is that you just can't keep everybody. And that's okay. It's also why the contracts of Wiggins and Joe are so incredibly vital to the lifeblood of the team moving forward, is that you have inexpensive players that are good, that can help you. Look at Denver. Denver's grasping at straws right now, trying to figure out how to put together a roster, because they have their top three guys. That's great. But they don't have the bottom of their roster figured out. They don't have like those lower level guys that can really play. You just don't know who it is.
Yeah.
And when you have picks that are in the top 10 or in the top 12, like they did with Topic this year, it's like you have an actual legitimate shot. It's not just like taking a swing in the 20s. Just like, Julian Strother, please work. Please work. We don't know, but please work. You know?
And it's not just OKC. I mean, Dallas drafted Lively.
Yeah.
And Lively was ready to contribute from off the bench.
Right away.
Right away. This is like, if you can get that for 2-3 years in the future. I mean, I know that it sounds like hard. It's not the best saying like, hey, Lou Dort, Kenrich Williams, Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins, Cason Wallace, Usman Jang, Caruso, Hartenstein, guys, the spot is not there. I mean, there are guys who will come in and try to get after your job. Yep. And it's probably going to be some of you that will just leave. We will have to let it go. Like Trey Mann. Guys like this will be churned, because you need to do it. You need to replace like young talent, small roster, small salary, which is if it's a top 10, it's not even small, but like it's something that will happen to OKC.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think the Thunder are set up better than just anybody in the NBA right now, because of their top players and the fact that they have these picks. Because I think the assumption is that they would trade all these picks for another like big salary player, but in this cap environment, I just don't think that makes sense.
Yeah,
like you can hardly pay for 3 max guys. Like, how are you supposed to pay for 4?
Yeah, and she has a supermax coming, so that is going to be a fat contract.
Yeah. The answer is you don't pay for 4. What you do is that you have inexpensive players at the end that are hopefully ready to contribute in draft picks, and it's great. It's also great for the Dream Team Draft Show, which will remain relevant for a long time, which is great. Okay. Let's end right here. And I will have like a TQ podcast that will drop midweek. There is a summer league game in Utah Monday night. Unless something crazy happens, I likely will not have like a recap of that on this show. I'll talk about it for the pod on Friday, or I'll do the show on Saturday. So look out for that. And I may do it Saturday after the game, on Saturday night.
But if you crave for summer league updates, we may have something on the Dream Team show.
I was going to say, we're going to have, I've already talked to Rylan. Rylan is going to help us do a Thunder After Dark, and Michele or whoever else may hop on with him and recap the game
Yeah.
there. So we will have Thunder content on this feed. I'm just traveling and won't have the time to do a show this week in midweek. So I will have content for you there that'll just be in the form of just answering Twitter questions. So
You
look
want to
out for
do
that.
one question right now, just to
Yeah.
give one question?
Yeah.
Just pick one randomly so that we have at least one.
Sportsfan 405 says Chet and J-Dub, what is their points, rebounds, and assists per game next year?
Prediction. Let's see. Let me see where they are at right now. I think they are in the teens, but I do want to have the right number. So Chetongan was 16.5 and Jalen 19.1. Chet was at 8 rebounds per game, 2.4 assists. J-Dub was 4 and 4.5. I think that J-Dub will cross 20.
Yeah.
And I do think that Chet. So J-Dub will do something like 25 and 5, which sounds crazy. And for Chet, I think that the rebound number will basically stay the same, if not dropping a little bit. But I do think that the points will go a little bit higher. So I bet that is something like 18, 7, and 3 with maybe 2.7, 2.8 blocks, maybe 3 blocks per game. So increasing a bit if you are Chet in terms of points. For J-Dub, I think that the increase will be a little bit more marginal because it's already up there in terms of attempts.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just hardly anybody doing the 25 and 5 thing. Like over 20. I mean, Jamal Murray didn't do it. Last year, James Harden didn't do it. Gosh, who else would be on this list? Obviously, LeBron's on the list. Tatum is on that list. Ant Edwards is on that list. Jokic is on that list, clearly. But, that's about it. Like they're just Luka is on that list. Donovan Mitchell is like almost there. Oh, who did it last year? Maxey. Maxey was 25 and almost 7.
Oh, Shea did it.
Obviously, Shea did it.
Yeah.
So it's just like it shows you, like, I guess, like the worst player that did it last year was Tyrese Maxey.
Yeah.
Players, it's not common. The 25 and 5 is just not common. And so if that's something that he can do, that he can actually cross that threshold, would be quite.
I think that he can.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's not that he's at like 38 minutes per game. That is also a place where I hope that he get a little bit more minutes. He went from 10.6 shots per game to 14, which is good. Yeah. I really do think that maybe the points can get higher if he finds a way to be a little bit more of a prolific 3-point shooter, because it's just a shame that he's getting just 3.5 shots at 42.7%. Like, right. just get 5, man. Just should take 5.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, these guys are stars, and we've only seen just like the tip of the iceberg with this team and what they can be. And they got to round 2. And we're at the end of game 6, almost forced a game 7 against the team that went to the finals. So they're just in a ridiculous spot. Okay, so I am going to attach the Isaiah Hartenstein and Sam Presti interviews here at the end of the pod. So I'll do Hartenstein first, Presti second. Again, I encourage you guys to like really listen to the stuff that Sam says, because he really does say a lot in this interview yesterday. So hope you guys enjoy that. Hope you guys enjoy your week. Summer League is here. Hey, if you're going to be in Vegas, and you need tickets to the game, send me an email. I am going to give tickets to a few people. Okay. So I will choose at random a few people to give tickets to some summer league, to the games on Saturday specifically. So if you need tickets for Saturday, I have a very limited number to give, but I do have some tickets to give. So if you will just send me an email and saying I need tickets for Saturday, be sure that you're not just like emailing me just for fun. Like if you're going to actually be in Vegas, send me an email, and I'm going to at random choose a few people to give tickets to. So it will be it's pretty cool because you're going to be able to sit behind the Thunder bench during the Thunder game, which is I think at like 5
Wow.
Saturday, and you're going to get a T-shirt, a Thunder T-shirt too. So if you're going to be in Vegas, hit me up. Let me know. I will at random hand out a few tickets. So enjoy these interviews, and we will talk to you guys again on Wednesday.